Most living things demand constant satisfaction. These people recognize the need for maintaining physical attractiveness, certainly, but Venus influences may lead them to pleasure-seeking, laziness and self-indulgence. Weight gain, even obesity may result. Those born on this day should make an effort to exercise regularly, using walking, jogging or aerobics to keep fit. Most of these people have to watch their diet carefully, for they heartily enjoy food, whether healthy or unhealthy, and eat what is offered them. Fortunately, mental health and nerves are rarely a problem here, as they are for most of them. They are ruled by the planet Venus. They are magnetic and sometimes can even inspire worship. This, as mentioned above, is characteristic of these people. Since they are ruled by Mercury, these people tend to be both Venusian, sensuous, and mercurial, clever. Their card of the major arcana, the Devil, indicates a fear/desire dynamic working where sexual attraction, irrationality, and passion are concerned. The Devil holds us slave through our need for security and money. He represents our base nature grasping for security. He controls us through the irreconcilable differences which exist in our male/female nature. With the mind as the aggressive part and their body as the more passive, pleasure-loving realm, these people attempt a synthesis which can be both accepted and expressed in an easy manner without fear of irrationality. The Devil card. The positive side of the Devil card is sexual attraction and the expression of passionate desires. But the card reminds us that although we are bound to our bodies, our spirits are free to soar. Day. Attractive. Sensuous. Clever. Manipulative. Too outgoing. These people depend on their charm to get them where they want to go. Thus, their principal talents are outwardly directed and involve others. These people must be appreciated for their seductive charms to work. That is, their particular brand of seduction is overt rather than covert. Those born on this day have a way of winning others over to their point of view, and then bringing the best out of them. Most of these people just want to feel appreciated. Only the least evolved are more calculating and have a hidden agenda. Money may be very important to this type of person. Being attractive, in a broad sense, is a big issue for those born on this day. If they do not have natural looks, they use their brains to seduce. If that doesn't work, they use their cunning, their speech, or their knowledge of human nature to draw interest. They have a way of making the opposite sex dependent on them, usually by a combination of the above-mentioned charm and becoming indispensable. Any manipulation taking place is, again, clearly overt and in no way as underhanded as it sounds. The game is usually enjoyed by both players. These people specialize in knowing people, how they tick, what their dreams, aspirations and basic needs are. More importantly, they are able to make use of this knowledge. Often people of this type working for a cause or a company can be of great value in attracting the public to a product or service. Public relations and advertising seem to come naturally to them. Indeed, any profession involving baiting the hook and catching the fish is within their talents. Evangelical work, for example. These people are adept at guiding children, for they understand youthful motivations. They usually make good parents but can have some glaring faults, such as spoiling their children terribly or manipulating them through being alternately unforgiving and apologetic. If a club or organization is looking for a fundraiser, they need look no further. If a business depends on getting people into their store, these people will usually know not only how to attract customers, but how to make the sale as well. They have an instinct for how far to push and when to back off. And as the years go by, they just get better at it. Rarely are those born on this day found pursuing immoral goals, perhaps because it is the pursuit itself, not the goal that interests them. Most often their charming manner is a delight to those around them. What they really are, however, their true identity, may forever be a mystery not only to others, but to themselves as well. The more highly evolved among these people are not locked into the role of seducer, however benign, but remain open to outside influences, perhaps high forms of consciousness and thought. Internalize your values and build a strong system based on them, one that doesn't depend on the reactions of others. Learn to be alone and to enjoy it. Have more confidence in yourself. Weak. Exploratory. Risk-taking. Money-wise. Emotionally volatile. Disillusioned. Impatient. The primary drive of those born during this week is to go beyond limitations imposed by society and nature. This may take the form of a drive towards success, or an overcoming of physical limitations. They are never happier when they are on the move. probing, testing, tasting and exploring the most interesting things life has to offer. Not afraid to take chances, they are attracted by risk and danger. Adventurers in every sense of the word, they are restless types. Their style is to remain unattached and thus free to progress as far as possible. Life is never dull with them around. They do not necessarily have to travel to far-off lands to explore and find challenge. For them all of life is an adventure. Thus, they keep others guessing as to their next move. These are neither teachers nor leaders. They may lack the patience and understanding to teach, and also the qualities necessary to lead. The dogged determination, ambition and desire to control others. Those who understand them will quickly realize their need to strike out on their own, and will not try to bind them to an executive or other responsible position in a business or family. They are capable of taking the helm, particularly when they encounter incompetence or neglect, yet they may also show an indulgent, accepting side, proving content to drift and dream. Such self-satisfaction can prove a powerful deterrent to their progress in their careers. These folks often have a clouded self-image, they have difficulty seeing who they really are. This may have its beginnings in childhood with the idolization of a parent or family member, often of the opposite sex. Rejection, misunderstanding or abuse by such a person can be traumatic for them, giving them deep scars to carry into later life. Disillusionment in general can be a problem for these people. They tend to be extremely optimistic at the outset of an endeavor or relationship, often setting a person or activity up for a later fall from grace. They have an undeniable tendency to please others through charm, and many would rather stretch the truth a bit than be rejected for telling it as it is. Insightful about the needs of those around them, they can be powerfully controlling and persuasive in a subtle manner. They know how to get their way with people, and how to capture the hearts of their mates and friends. At the extreme end of the scale, they can tell tall tales, and may be suspected of being cons, flatterers or even liars. Many of them are surprisingly good with money. They may not always give the appearance of financial practicality or foresight, but they can manage a family or a business quite well. They are also capable of latching on to a practical partner or someone else who can guarantee them the financial stability that they so sorely need. Money can come to symbolize freedom to them, although they rarely have a desperate need to accumulate it for its own sake. These people often have a strong physical side, yet choose to neglect it, seeking to transcend life's earthier pleasures. Thus, they lack the grounded qualities of those who are capable of selfish and shameless indulgence. Metaphysical in the most basic sense of the word, they may see mastery of the tangible realities of life as only a first step toward higher attainment. They must at times be wary of going too far, and of getting caught up in endless striving without achievement. Love and affection are important to them, but are not usually given top priority. Those emotionally involved can find them sometimes warm and giving, in other moods quite cool and detached. Indeed, they are sometimes accused of blowing hot and cold, and with some justification. This is usually more the result of emotional sensitivity, however, than of a calculated desire to hurt. Because of their intense need for change in relationships, these people may spend a period of their life moving from one partner to another. Even those who can establish a well-grounded primary relationship are constantly tempted away from it by a career, a hobby or another person. They can be faithful, however, as long as their partner makes few demands on their fidelity and gives them room to breathe. Attempts to hold them to strict obligations and a formal routine are usually doomed to failure. On the other hand, they are quite capable of imposing stringent regimens and rules on themselves when they consider it necessary. Their seductive qualities tend to land them in trouble. Their choice of a partner often shows remarkably good sense, but they may bind themselves to a friend or lover who can prove bothersome or destructive. Regretting such choices, they may still find it hard to disentangle themselves from an emotionally messy situation. This may be partly due to an innate reluctance to reject or consciously hurt others, or to a feeling of helplessness and hesitancy in making the decision to cut ties. When a relationship must be ended, however, it is more often than not them who either ends up doing the rejecting or allows or manipulates the other person to do so. Control of closure seems to be important to them, although they would prefer that relationships end as pleasantly as possible. Sometimes what is right in front of you is just as interesting as something risky or exotic. It may not be incumbent on you to influence the course of things. Allow yourself to express negativity when it is called for. Give yourself easy rewards, too. Way. Charming. Frank. dynamic, overly exacting, critical, repressed. Those born during this way must let go of their exacting attitudes in order to approach life in a more open, relaxed manner, one that is defined by a childlike sense of awe at or delight in the world. They must learn to cultivate and experience wonder. This requires releasing an overemphasis on the details of life and a propensity to perfectionism in order to achieve a broader view. By being less critical and focused and by extending their vision behind the mundane, they will significantly enhance the quality of their lives and will become imbued with a sense of wonder as they get into touch with the larger forces at work in the universe. Awe is the natural byproduct of such a process. Fairly cool customers emotionally, they will usually need to become more familiar with their own feelings in order to become more spontaneous and fun. Play is the simple key for them, as well as their core lesson. It is best for them to slow down by putting the brakes on a bit and regularly taking the time to enjoy life's simple pleasures. These folks are born with a desire for order. They need to arrange their world in a fashion that feels right to them. Naturally, this requires quite a bit of management and organization. Their minds are taken up with all the little details of any situation or issue, and with thoughts of how best to arrange them so that they form more beautiful or perfect relationships to one another. Efficiency is their goal. As useful as this tendency may be, as anyone who has too much to do or worry about can attest, at a certain point the sheer volume of decisions required by such an exacting approach can be overwhelming. Stressed out, they forget to see the bigger picture, to engage more openly or fully in the experience of living, or even to enjoy the end result of their labors. Sometimes they are so over-involved in setting the details of their lives in the right order that nothing is good enough for them, causing them perpetual frustration and irritation. Their core lesson is quite simple: to nourish the child within through play. Teaching themselves how to engage in play and making sure that they give themselves enough playtime will help them to cultivate a sense of wonder. Through play, they will forget to focus on everything they think needs to be done, and begin to relax and allow things to go as they will. Of course, bills must be paid, daily tasks attended to, and provisions made for the future, but there is no reason why one cannot forget about work or chores for a while. They will discover that stress is largely something that they inflict upon themselves, and that when they are able to put things out of their mind long enough to enjoy themselves, their general health and well-being improve dramatically. Almost always, they force themselves to assume a mature or overly responsible role. Often, they are hard on themselves for not being perfect enough. Rarely satisfied, they drive themselves on toward greater and greater achievement in all areas of their life. Frequently, such a stance echoes an overly strict or critical parent or other authority figure from childhood. An underlying dynamic here is that they have a tendency to repress their feelings. Somewhere in the distant past, they decided that mastering emotion was a high priority. This, combined with a dislike of anything that smacks of emotional messiness and a love of an efficient and well-ordered world, makes for people who are quite good at denying, stuffing, and blocking their feelings. They appear to be quite cool, even unemotional, but in fact they are quite complex on a feeling level. Developing any sort of spontaneity means that they must engage in the work of unlocking their emotional expression. While letting their real emotions out of the proverbial box may be fearful for them, ultimately, they will discover how to balance feeling and rationality, contraction and expansion, expression and reticence. The child in them and its sense of wonder will begin to peek out and be heard only when their internal, and often critical, parent stops being so repressive. Moreover, they may find, as they rediscover their feelings, a kind of warmth and charm they never knew existed. They will know they are doing something right when they start to notice how many people seem to be attracted to them. These are intense personalities, uniquely suited for tremendous achievements, as long as they transform themselves into motivators, rather than detractors of others. It is extremely unlikely that they will give up their discrimination or exacting tastes, but they must learn to keep them in balance with the rest of their personality, and not allow them to dominate. Unusually critical people, they have a tendency to nitpick, be negative, or criticize others too severely based on their own high standards. They will always employ those standards to achieve the best results for their own and others' efforts, but when it comes to motivating others, learning to focus on the good and to ignore the less than perfect side of things, even though they will always see it pretty clearly, will reap them rich rewards in any field of endeavor. Relenting in this approach and becoming more accepting and forgiving will occur naturally, as they begin to relax and have more fun. Also, an important part of this process is that, following the development of a greater sense of wonder themselves, they will find that they are able to infect others with it. Moreover, they are possessed of a fierce quick wit. Once they learn to use it less to wound or to be critical and more simply to entertain, they will find that it is inordinately powerful as a form of engaging and charming people. Thus, they will be able to inspire others to great creative achievement. Their issues are likely to be worked out on an internal or psychological level. Working on patterns in thinking and relating will be their main objective. Learning how to relax and drop one's critical attitudes is not as easy as it sounds. The best approach is to attune oneself to the natural flow of things, letting things happen, rather than attempting to make them happen. Since relaxation is so important here, they should spoil themselves more, particularly in the form of treating themselves to certain activities that will inevitably lead to removing tensions. Learning to enjoy themselves fully, without any feelings of guilt, is crucial to this process. Also, paying more attention to sleeping, eating, sex, and other natural functions will give their unconscious self more autonomy and free them from many strangling inhibitions. What a relief it can be for them at last to back off from workaholic tendencies. Suddenly having more time on their hands and less work can lead them to make new friends and seek out whole new worlds of experience. In general, the emphasis on career and a focus on increasing interpersonal involvements are hallmarks of progress for them. Finding the right partner or partners will aid the process tremendously, and the joys of vacation, travel, affection, lovemaking, and in general just kicking back, will steer these intense individuals in a sensibly hedonistic direction. If they have children of their own, they will vicariously rediscover the joys of childhood through their own progeny. Also, having children provides them with a chance to become the loving, non-judgmental parents that their own stern mother or father could never be. Attracting more free and open friends can exert a positive influence by fostering more fun-loving attitudes. What is best for those born during the Way of Wonder is to put aside more serious, intellectual, or demanding hobbies, such as reading and discussion, in favor of less cerebral and more active ones, such as sports, dance, hiking, or biking. All outdoor activities should be pursued, since it is outdoors that a sense of wonder is truly fostered. Through really learning to enjoy themselves, even being silly and irresponsible from time to time, they will get into the habit of forgetting to be demanding and critical. Strange to say, for these people, who typically find it hard to reward themselves except with more hard work and responsibility, even the untrammeled pleasure of getting lost in the thorough enjoyment of a chocolate bar or a cartoon can represent a major spiritual breakthrough. Their fulfillment can be likened to a student's playing hooky from school. Removing himself from the reach of a critical or repressive teacher, he spends time on his own and simply indulges himself in the joy of a beautiful spring day. Suggestion: practice affirmations that remind you of your worth. Know that you deserve to have pleasure. Realize that you are not responsible for fixing all of life's problems. Try to be more spontaneous. Lesson: releasing themselves from an overemphasis on work and its many tasks and remembering to nourish a childlike need for play. Goal: to cultivate an ongoing and inspiring sense of awe of the world and living. Need to release: being critical of both self and others. Expected reward: the joy of play. Must learn to balance work and play. Month: the month represents quickness of thought and facile communication. This month is mental in orientation, and thus can be compared to a lively intellect reaching out to establish contact with other emerging points of view. In the same way, it symbolizes the expanding powers of the mind exercised by the adolescent evolving toward adulthood. Those born this month are concerned with the close connection between thought and verbal expression. They also associate with details rather than the broad view or larger picture. Liveliness, variety and change, both of experience and environment, are all vital to them. They have a clear need for a partner and have a capacity for adaptation and even sudden reversals of direction. People born during this month transmute fixed, earthy and practical energies into protective, empathic and sensitive ones. Their personality can be likened to the adolescent striving to reach young adulthood. This time of life is typified by a desire to integrate socially, but also to break away from parental and/or societal authority. In fact, though outspoken, these are not rebellious people per se, they just revel in their own individuality and value personal freedom above all else. Like adolescents, they are attracted to excitement and change. They bore easily and generally prefer going out in search of excitement to staying home and enjoying security and simple pleasures. Few things bring these folks as much satisfaction as traveling around with one or more friends looking for some trouble to get into. For them, trouble means adventure, daring, innovation, and perhaps the fun of recounting their exploits, while embellishing a few details to liven things up a bit. Usually, they have nervous energy to burn and are attracted to those activities that give them a lift, a sense of exultation. If those born during any month could actually fly, these would be the ones. Many forms of travel appeal to them, from bikes and skates to cars and motorcycles. But they also tire easily, and faced with the demands of the long haul may just as soon prefer to give up or change direction. Those born during this like being part of a group. They tend to liven up any social situation with their flow of ideas and verbal facility. However, they may not readily accept the responsibilities of group membership. They are often accused of being fickle and even superficial, but in their view changing one's mind is no sin. The importance of non-attachment is something they usually take to heart. Their mode of thought. Their motto. I communicate. Their pattern of development. The people born during this weekend way are likely to have a fine time as long as they recognize and release their rather compulsive attitudes towards self-discipline and free themselves from the need to chase details rather than dreams. Though turning inward in order to understand the rigid or controlling attitudes that have held them back from true self-realization may prove difficult, chances are they will rise to the need for greater knowledge and experience, and will have little trouble releasing the attitudes that stand in their way. Making time for play is essential to their mental health, as boring routines will surely stunt their emotional and psychological growth. Yet as long as they learn to manage stress, cultivate relaxation techniques, and recognize and indulge their own yearning for knowledge and adventure, they can find both inspiration and fulfillment on this path. Season. Beginning on the spring equinox, which symbolizes rebirth, days and nights are of equal length. As spring wears on, the days grow longer and the nights shorter. Spring is the first quarter of the yearly cycle. It extends from the spring equinox to the summer solstice. Springtime is traditionally a period of new growth. As the earth and air heat up, the fire of the sun melts the winter ice and snow. Spring rains coupled with swollen rivers bring water to the earth, and new life bursts forth. Planting of crops and vegetables begins once the nights become shorter, and all danger of freezing is past. Seeds germinate in the earth, plants sprout and quickly begin to grow. The first flowers blossom, and in combination with the birds and animals, perhaps newly born, returned from migrations or awakened from hibernation, add beauty and liveliness to this quadrant of the year. Analogously, people spend more time outside and wear fewer but more colorful clothes, as the days lengthen and the average temperature rises. More daylight means more time available for recreation and the enjoyment of natural surroundings. Generally speaking, those born in the springtime manifest an enthusiasm for life. Their energy is prodigious where initiating projects is concerned, and their ability to survive and/or adapt is noteworthy. Often more extroverted than introverted, springtime people tend to impact heavily on their environment. However, their capacity to dutifully or doggedly stick to one activity is not necessarily great. Springtime people like to share what they think, create and produce, and they are, more than those born in other seasons, in need of fairly constant appreciation and approval for what they do. A desire to be free characterizes many born in this season, and they may not react well to having restrictions imposed on them. Springtime people need to grow, expand and make their mark on the world. Those born in the spring often carry a childlike air about them their whole life long. Innocence, spontaneity, impulse, these are all characteristic of springtime people. Generally positive in their outlook, they may be put off by highly serious attitudes, and have little patience for those with negative orientations. Name. Initiation. Description. These folks are initiators. Faculty. They use their intuition. Activity. Initiators who begin the whole process, starter-uppers who get things going.